Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk, straight from their jocks about the jocks. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Know-It-Alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know show. We are ready to go. It's exciting. Listen, we just completed the AFC NFC Championship games. A lot to go through with those two games. Very close right down to the end with both of them. It was very exciting for both teams, and we're going to break that down a little bit. And then we're also can't wait with some new insight on heading towards the offseason for some teams and their projected maybe head coaches or GMs or whatever they have to go out there and hire. We're going to break that down a little bit too, and also we're going to get to a little bit of Brian Flores and his situation. But man, what a wild weekend to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, those games, they did not let us down. It was kind of funny because those games end up being tales of two halves because we're looking at these games and the Chiefs look like they had it and just narrow-handed easily. They were just on fire, putting up the points. They go into the first half, they're winning 21-10 and really giving it to the Bengals. The Bengals luckily were able to get that last possession score right before half. So before that, it was 21-3. So really going off on them, and then then we see a whole different second half here with the Bengals and the Chiefs. And Joe Burrow, you can't say enough about this guy. That's what I mean. We've seen this offensive line break down and it really get pressure right there on their quarterback, and he's taking hits and taking sacks, but really not making dumb mistakes here. And that's what we saw throughout this game. Yeah. And kind of staying with it, staying through this adversity. But most importantly, I think for this game, and that's why I even have it titled on here with Chiefs really blow the lead, Patrick Mahomes, it seemed like every time, when they had possession, he was looking for the perfect play downfield or whatever. If it wasn't there, a perfect thing, he wasn't doing it. So he was bailing on the play, trying to make something happen too much. And really, when the pressure was there, because you got to give it to the Bengals too. The Bengals defense was really putting some pressure on Mahomes too as well. And the secondary was playing pretty nice too as well on the receivers. So really keeping it difficult for him, but like I said, if it wasn't really there, he didn't want to make the mistakes and instead ran around and scrambled a lot with the ball, not really going anywhere, and eventually made a few bad mistakes.
Well, what you talk about right there is key is the Bengals secondary. They had a great game plan against this Chiefs offense, and that's really what led to Mahomes doing more scrambling than delivering the football down the football field. So a little bit of both. Yes, Bengals, they had a nice rush on them at times, but I have to give them a lot of credit. I felt like defensively they had a great game plan against them. They limited a lot of any kind of big-time plays for the most part, and they made Mahomes have a few dilemmas throughout that game. So and that's where it led to him trying to make something happen and trying to utilize his legs and kind of mix it up that way. So the Chiefs, they had the game, yes, but listen, if we haven't learned anything by now in the playoffs in this past season, how crazy it's been, you can always pull off something. You can always come back in games. I mean, for God's sakes, we just watched the Chiefs do it in 13 seconds and beat, unfortunately, the Buffalo Bills fans out there. I'm sorry, but they beat you guys in 13 seconds. So to me, that showed me it doesn't matter what the clock says, you always have a chance until you see triple zeros.
Yeah, definitely. You play right to the end, and like I said, you can't really say enough about that Bengals team and what they did, and they're able to march down there and bring this game right to the closing seconds to where they get it to overtime now, and now it's so who's going to score kind of thing. We get the touchdown first. The Chiefs win the coin toss. They win the coin toss, so you're kind of looking like everybody else, especially because the week before, you bring up the Bills, people were complaining about the playoffs overtime rules with now all of a sudden you score a touchdown, it's not good enough. Now every team has the opportunity, no matter what, whether it's a touchdown or not. They want to do that. They want to change all the overtime rules now just for the playoffs because they're upset with the ending. But this comes down to it here. Chiefs have it, and Mahomes, instead of going for the check down again, which was open, you can watch the replay over. It's there. They can get the first down still. He goes for the long ball, the deep ball to Tyreek Hill, who's double covered, and the secondary makes a good play in between where his hands is and then tips it right there and is able to knock that ball down. And the other, whether it's the safety or the corner, comes up with the ball and key interception right there. Now changes possession over. Now both teams have possession, and that now leads the Bengals. Now they don't need a touchdown. They go right down, and McPherson, who's been money since that, it seems like that Green Bay game when he was going back and forth with Mason Crosby, he's been money since that game.
I mean, Evan McPherson's had a phenomenal rookie year. He's just been amazing all season. And he's got like ice in his veins. He doesn't miss field goals, and he's really playing like an Adam Vinatieri-esque type of kicker. Like he's just cool, calm, collected, and always makes the field goals when it counts. You can't say enough about that kid and where as a rookie kicker to come into the NFL, the big stage, the big time, and for him to just constantly deliver for the Bengals to beat teams is truly amazing. So that's one part of that. The other thing too is the Bengals came to play. You knew they were going to. And their offense was going to be a big key to this. The defense, obviously, like they had their own hands full going up against this Chiefs offense. But the Bengals offense was kind of more, to me, they were more impressive than the Chiefs were and what their game plan was and whatnot. Because the Bengals were coming in and they had you could consider all three of them as number one type receivers at their disposal, along with the running back in the backfield. Really hard for the Chiefs, and we know the Chiefs have struggled recently with their defense trying to cover wide receivers in the open. So this was going to be a true test for the Chiefs' defense, and also was going to be a true test for a young Bengals offense, and if they are capable to bring it together and let's dial down and do what we do best. Joe Burrow, just listen. He didn't let the game get too big for him. He didn't get flustered. The whole team seemed to be on the same page, and they delivered. They executed the plays that they needed to execute. Jamar Chase had another good game. Higgins, he ended up showing up, later on down the stretch in the game, getting some crucial first downs for the team. Joe Mixon had a few really good runs. And as much as we were worried about the Bengals' offensive line, being able to protect Burrow or create running lanes, they didn't do a phenomenal job, but I think they did an adequate job to the point where they were able to pull off some big-time plays.
Yeah, absolutely, and they were really able to surprise everybody here. I think coming into this whole thing, a lot of people thought the Bengals were a team that wasn't really ready to be here and be in this situation here, and they really showed that they kind of are that younger team. They're one of these teams like that are built a little differently too than the Chiefs are. They went out and they've got these guys, a lot of youth, a lot of young talent. The Chiefs, they were the veterans. They've been there. They were the favorites to be here. But again, throughout the season, we've seen that the Chiefs just didn't seem like they were 2 years ago when they were in the Super Bowl and had that championship run. They just seemed to still a little bit off. I don't know whether it's just something different with the offense or not. People are trying to figure them out more, but you got to give it credit to the Bengals, and they're really performing well. And now they're in the big game, Joe. It's been a long time, and now they're there. Yeah,
and that's the reason is just right there. The Chiefs haven't done anything different. They've done listen, early in the season, they were struggling big time. They kept trying to play back on defense, trying to be safe about everything, and it ate their defense up. Opponents on offense were just killing them and racking up points against them. And then when the pressure was all on the Chiefs defense, quite a few teams were using a different style of defense to combat them and how explosive they are, and it worked to a T. Pretty much halfway through the season. And then they started to say, okay, well, we got to change some things up ourselves. So they started to be like, okay, if you're going to take away the long ball on us, we're just going to throw it underneath. defensively. All right, we're done. We're tired of sitting back. We're going to start blitzing a hell of a lot more. And then they started to pick up and gain traction. That's the old Chiefs that we're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
They carried that success right into the playoffs. And then what I think is happening is teams, good coaching staffs, and good defenses are looking at the game film now and seeing it and taking it what it is. They're attacking the Chiefs' offense and their defense differently now, and it's really kind of making the Chiefs kind of stumble and fumble over their own feet. And that's what you saw against the Bengals. A team that nobody gave credit to, nobody thought we're going to beat the Chiefs, even get to this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's face it. I didn't expect them to make it this far, and maybe make it to the playoffs, maybe, but definitely didn't expect them to go this far. And to take out two, not one, but two big-time teams, the Titans, who were the number 1 seed, and then the Chiefs right behind them. So big-time kudos for the Cincinnati Bengals. The coaching staff, listen, as much under the fire that Zach Taylor has been given early on in the season as can he do it? Can he get over some of these tough games? Can he win them? Can with the people that he has at his disposal, is he going to be able to win some bigger games down the stretch? And guess what? All the answers are there now. Zach Taylor and the team itself, the Bengals, have done very well for themselves. I think the GM's got to be commended for this because the GM and the front office have helped build this team up with draft picks and free agents, and now the coaching staff and and Zach Taylor as a head coach, they've taken those pieces, put them together, and they got just the right recipe going right now. Mm-hmm. And this is not only a young team that's like, okay, they're young, they might falter at some point. This is a team that's really come together strongly. They're very young on offense with the quarterback, their receivers, their tight end, C.J. Uzoma, and this offensive line is just going to keep getting better. Think about the future now. This team is on track right now. If they somehow pull off a big-time upset yet again in the Super Bowl and are Super Bowl champions, then how young this team is, and they just critique, position here and there. Defense needs to get a little bit better. The offensive line, we know that. If they are able to do that, this team looks like it's built for the long haul. Maybe possibly could be the future dynasty if they're able to pull this off.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we look at the NFC Conference Championships. This one, again, kind of a tale of two halves here, even though it was more of a defensive game. Like, we thought it was going to be defensive, and this is exactly what we saw. That 49ers defense really getting after Matthew Stafford and stopping the run game. And couldn't really – they were locking up Cooper Kupp as well, too. OBJ started to get some catches early, but really not able to muster up some points until the second quarter. And the 49ers had the lead 17-7 going into the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden it just seems like a click. They were able to get things moving. That defense for the Rams really making bigger plays. Aaron Donald had said something to him in the halftime, said, "This is it. We got to get this. I want a ring. We got to do this. Let's get it done." They all fought together, and then we saw some sparks here in that offense. And basically even the 49ers inept when it came to crunch time and really making a lot of crucial mistakes and not driving the ball gave the Rams opportunity just to drive down there and make some big plays. And finally, that's when we saw Cooper Kupp shine and make some great catches and to get them back into this game and end up winning.
Well, I mean, the one thing is the 49ers, they're not built to get the ball down the field type of offense. They're a running team, and they were doing that for the most part, and were pretty successful early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the big thing was they weren't able to sustain drives, later on down the stretch. And it was a little bit of a concern because they started to notice, the Rams are starting to get some momentum. We need to do something. We need to drive down. We need to score. And you talk about Aaron Donald having a little speech. He had it on the sideline. And you could just tell when you're watching that game, you could tell how he was very, in tune with his emotions, very, not angry or upset, but he was very fired up. Like he was like, there is no way we're letting this team beat us again, guys. We are not. Listen, we're the defense. We need to go out there. We need to show the world why we are a top 10 defense, why we are here. And we haven't early on. We didn't get the stops that we needed to. But now's the time. We need to, dig our heels in. We need to grind on and get after the quarterback and stop the runs and break up some of these passes, and got everybody back in. They were just refocused, repurposed, and they went on the football field, and it almost like they flipped the switch, just like you said, and they turned it on. They started to disrupt some plays. They started to get a sack here and there. They started to create so much pressure on Jimmy G and the 49ers offense that it made it extremely hard for them to get any kind of, anything going. And then offensively, you say the Rams' offenses clicked. Started to get better, and they started to execute better plays. Cooper Kupp, for the most part of that game, was just kind of shelled out. The Niners did a good job of not letting him involve too much for the most part of the game until the end.
Until the end. Yep.
And the biggest key is having Odell Beckham Jr. They needed somebody. Because Robert Woods went down with an injury, they definitely needed somebody else to carry the torch. If Cooper Kupp was going to be held out of the game or limited in any fashion, they needed that go-to guy other than Kupp that they could put all their confidence in, a guy that's a big playmaker. So Odell has shined in these playoffs, has definitely helped out this Rams offense and Matt Stafford. Someone that they can rely on, and that was a key thing in this game for them. In order for them to come back, they needed that little extra oomph there. It sucked that they ended up losing Higbee, in that game due to injury, so that was kind of like another loss that they had, but they were able to overcome that. And also, finally, utilizing Sony Michel in the backfield a little bit more, and they were able to get some positive yards on the ground that way. So they came to life right as they were going down into that third quarter, and they started to figure some things out. It took longer than they wanted it to, but in the end, they started to pick up momentum little by little, and then before you know it, they're right there in the end, and they end up winning.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it just brings everybody to the question and the key thing after the game, because you saw what happened after the Rams scored. There was still a minute and a half. We're talking about 13 seconds the week prior and what Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were able to do. Jimmy G and the 49ers were given a minute 43, I think it was, or minute 49, something like that. It was a whole lot of time. And he just got pressured nonstop, and I understand that Jimmy G is not one of the best quarterbacks out there. I think we already know this, and to grill him on it and say it was all his fault, I don't think so. But because there's still a lot of pressure, and it seemed like they were in a rush to get to that line, and they were behind the game clock or the play clock. Way too much. And one of those downs, I want to believe it was second down, he's seeing the clock tick down. It's going down to zeros. He's trying. It looked like he tried to call a timeout, and then they snapped it. And they let the play run, and he has it all of a sudden. He's like, oh, what? And then the pass rush gets there. He's scrambling around, and then that's when he makes his dummy mistakes, and that's where he gets that tip, ends up in interception right there, and that's where the game's all over for them, and that's how it ends for the 49ers. So that's what we're left with afterwards, and we've already heard now there's already a deal set in place, or a trade scenario of what they would do to get rid of Jimmy G for the 49ers, so he's no longer going to be there. But you think about what might have been. That defense played really, really well. And if it wasn't for a dropped interception in that game, too, at the late of that game, 49ers were sealing the deal right there. 49ers had it. So, I mean, plays like that, coulda, woulda, shoulda, and I feel bad for Deebo Samuel because he laid his heart on the line in that whole game. His body, season. Everything. He's been the heart and soul of that team, the core of everything, catching, running, everything. He played hard in that game, and then they just fall short. Just like that, and there you go. The Rams back into the Super Bowl again. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for that game moving forward.
You got to go back to that play, though, is the play there where that interception where the guy dropped it just like you just said. However, those type of plays, they're not like you should make those plays.
Right.
Those are plays you absolutely have to make. That was a gimme interception.
It was there.
And a lot of people say this and they joke about Stafford and like he'll give you one. He'll always give in every game. He'll give you one. And that was the one. That was the one gimme that you should have executed. You should have caught it. He threw it right to
It was like
you.
a fly ball to the center fielder.
He threw it
That's what
right
it was like.
to him. And for you not to come away with a catch, wow. I mean, that's why I guess you play defense and not receiver. So the other thing, too, about this game that kind of, I know head coaches sometimes take a lot of flack and everything, but I think Kyle Shanahan had a good game plan against the Rams. And they executed up to a certain point in the game, but for some reason they just they let it all slide. And Sean McVay, there are two coaches in this game, right? You got Kyle Shanahan, you got Sean McVay, who take a lot of heat when their teams don't do well in big games like the playoffs, or for Sean McVay was in the Super Bowl at one time and kind of flabbergasted that whole situation. So for once, it looked like they were both in this big game. They both had good game plans. They both made adjustments throughout, but it looks like the better team ended up winning. And that's what we as sports fans like to see. So it was a very good game. Don't get me wrong. They finally break the curse, right? The LA Rams finally.
Yeah, right.
Finally
they went 0-6, I think, for them in the
like,
last.
Yeah, it was like 0-7 or something like that.
Yep.
They finally break the curse against the 49ers, and they win the biggest game of the organization's tenure in LA. Right now, now they're heading off into the Super Bowl, and Sean McVay, yet another opportunity now. Don't screw it up.
Yeah, don't screw it up is basically
don't
saying.
overthink. Don't overthink your plays. Do what works with this offense. And there's a whole reason why they're there now. Everyone kept pointing to when they pulled off this trade for Matt Stafford, said this is the guy that's going to get us there. And they've pulled all the stops out, right? They go out and they get their quarterback that they believe in Stafford. They add a couple pieces via trade, in the season and stuff. They get OBJ, they get Von Miller. So they've done all these things, pushing all the chips into to the center of the table now and saying, this is the year that we got to make it happen. And here they are. They're at the big dance once again. If they don't win this one, be prepared, LA fans. It may come down to a rebuild. Because you're not in good cap compliance right now. So you got to do it now. Otherwise, it might be a rough road and a long one.
Absolutely. We want to thank you guys for all joining us with us tonight on YouTube and Facebook, and we really appreciate it. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, Football on the No Show. Follow us on Twitter, FB_No. Super Bowl Radio Row Week is coming up, so we're going to have a lot of exciting things for you guys. We still have to work out a couple other deals, but we have a big announcement this week, so guys, stay tuned for that. Some big interviews that are going to be posted, so we're excited for the Super Bowl to be coming up, but, we got the Pro Bowl week we have to snore through first, and then we'll get to it, so look forward to that. And also, I want to thank our sponsors out there that have been with us throughout the season. We really appreciate everything that you guys done for us. Colorize, especially. Link, my buddy at Colorize, he's been taking care of us. If you guys haven't yet, they have 3 locations in upstate New York here, and they're working on getting another one. They're just, building nonstop. This is a great growing company, and they are not only just a Benjamin Moore dealer up here, but they work on everything, PPG, and from the do-it-yourselfer to, a paint professional out there. If there's something you need done, go check them out. They have the know-how. They have the understanding of what needs to get done in whatever specific project you have. Go to mycolorize.com or check them out at one of those 3 locations in Queensbury, Clifton Park, and Niskayuna. So go to check out Colorize. And also, I want to thank PPK, Paul Perry Kitchens here that jumped on aboard with us too as well. If you haven't yet, check them out. Freeman's Bridge Road, 144 Freeman's Bridge Road. The number is 388-866-44. That's their number, so check them out if you want a custom kitchen done. They do bathroom doors, glass doors, and custom closets too as well. If you want a closet project to do, go check them out. Freeman's Ridge Road, Pulperry Kitchens. Mike Tackett is in the house with us
There
tonight.
he is.
Boom.
What's
there
up,
he
Mike?
is. Mike, let's see what he has to say here, Joe. What has he got here?
Happy almost Super Bowl week, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you're staying safe and warm. Was a brisk 78 degrees here in Ocala, Florida today. Yeah, okay. Real funny. Yeah, real brisk.
Yeah.
Well,
they got down to 40 or something the other night, or 30. It had to have been brutal for those guys.
I know. Yeah, it definitely did.
Yeah.
Well, last week, Mike went 0-2, making him 6-6 in the postseason. Not having a dog in this fight, I'm going to pull for my hometown team. Go Bengals.
Wow.
P.S. Still a Packers fan. Go Pack, go.
There you go. And that's the thing. That's a funny thing about the Bengals. We had this type of deal. I think it's not the same, I guess, but when the Philadelphia Eagles went, you had the Patriots and you had the Eagles. I'm a Giants fan. Don't want to really root for the Eagles. Don't want to root for the Patriots anymore though, because I'm tired of them winning. So I'm kind of at a crossroads here. What do you do? I know we know a couple of Cleveland Browns fans who were kind of said that they should have bet in this particular situation to make the playoffs and make a run like this. Instead, it's Cincinnati that ends up doing this. So they feel like they can't root for them at all. But then again, you've got Odell Beckham Jr. on the Rams too as well, and he's left your team. You kind of don't want him to get a ring, so you're stuck there as well. So it's an interesting situation for those Ohioans there, if that's how you pronounce it there. But yeah, Packers fan, he's making himself feel a little better here and go for the home team here, Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see what happens, Mike. But yeah, I went 0-2 last week as well, trying to get some games back on Joe, but I had failed miserably here. The Chiefs let me down. 49ers again, but you know what? Exciting stuff. I'm going to be drinking the week after the Super Bowl. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So you guys check out that show as well, and we have a lot more planned for you guys too, definitely moving forward. All right, big news today. Not only is Groundhog Day, we're gonna get more, weeks of winter, I guess, apparently. But the Washington football team now officially, even though after Joe Theismann had already emptied the carriage out of the bag,
He leaked it out.
Yeah, when I saw it in an interview, he's like, "Oh wait, that's right, it didn't have the big press release." And he was invited to the press release.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You're invited to be part of it, and you go on a talk show the day before and tell everybody, "Oh yeah, I'm excited about the Commanders." Like, wait a minute, we didn't do it yet. Oh. Man, so they have it.
Yeah, so he spilled the beans, and then he's at the press conference.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is great. And
it's
he
not the same
announces
speech, even.
Yeah, basically. He announces it and everything, and then says, oh, it's great. The name fits. It's tough. It's this, that, the other thing. And it's like, bro, 24 hours ago,
we already knew this.
We already knew this. Everybody knew it already.
Yeah, so what's your guys' take? What do you guys think about the name? You think they picked the right name? Or if you had a better name, you let us know it there in the comments too as well. What do you think? What do you think about the jerseys? We're looking at the jerseys as well. We got a photo here of the jerseys as well. Let's take a look at it. We got Chase Young. All the guys are all in it already. We got Scary Terry McLaurin too as well. See, now you look at them. Like the red ones are still like their generic. Their teams that they have.
That's the colors.
And even their logo is pretty much the same, just a couple lines in between. I don't know about the white one. It's kind of cool, maybe kind of like the weird like speckling in the 99, or the numbers. But kind of. I like the black ones. I know we talked before this show. What do you think about the black ones?
I think they're terrible. I mean, the problem is why do you have a color that's not even part of your team colors? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense. Listen, if you're going to wear black, you might as well be a Steeler, a Raven, or a Raider. That's it. Nobody else should have black on their jerseys if it's not part of your team colors. So the Washington Commanders, like you're burgundy, you're that like kind of weird yellow, spicy mustard, whatever you want to call it.
So, okay. You just don't, but you're a traditionalist on white, though. Like even though white's not part of your colors.
No, everybody wears white because it's an away uniform.
I know, but what if they decided to make just the black the away uniform or something? I know it's an alt jersey, which has kind of been the go-to alt jersey, though, for people.
It won't because it's not a uniform away jersey. Like the distinction between your away team and home team, that's the reason why everyone has white as an away, because it distincts you from the home team that wears their colors. But when you're wearing black, it's not even your team color. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why did you pick black out of all things? If you want an alternate jersey, that's fine. Listen, you got burgundy, you got yellow, and you got white to work with. So what's your alternative? Yellow. Figure out a yellow jersey.
That would be a cool like color rush or something like that.
But that's what I'm saying.
That's like a problem with people that can't. They're colorblind. I don't know if yellow is a bad color for them.
I think any color is a bad influence. You're going to see just shades of darkness or whatever. But that's my biggest thing. And it's like you see a lot of people, or you see more and more teams now that do this alternate black jersey, but it's with teams that don't even have that as a color. It just doesn't make sense to me, and it looks terrible. I feel like in most like look at the Eagles. The Eagles have a black alternate jersey, but it's not even. It doesn't even go well with your dark green. It kind of meshes together. It's terrible.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting take on that. I mean, I think black looks good with all of them, but I didn't really know you've cared so strongly about the black, like with all of them, even though it's not one of their colors. But
yeah, that's what I mean. Those three teams.
But you can still see the yellow and the red in it, though. That's what I like about it too. Is that different burgundy red with
you
the
look
gold
like the
with
Pittsburgh
the
Steelers right now.
No,
you have a very slight amount of red in that.
Yeah,
it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers just with different logo.
Perhaps. Yeah, I don't know.
Terrible.
I don't know. I don't agree with that, but whatever. That's fine. It's just interesting though that's like you really die hard against the black on anybody except unless it was your team colors.
It's not your team colors.
Interesting. Okay.
It's just like if the Raiders came out with like a red uniform. Why? It doesn't make any sense. It's not your team color.
I just don't want them to get like crazy like the NBA does and like Christmas color ones all of a sudden, because that does get crazy, because they will do that. They'll do like the NBA, like all of a sudden like the Sacramento Kings will have a red and green jersey on Christmas Day for some reason.
Or tie-dye.
And it'd be like, well, what are you doing?
Stupid.
Yeah, it just looks weird, and it's a way to sell a different type of jersey. So Washington football team. I think Commanders is a good name. I looked at their other logo, looks kind of cool too. Almost it has like the tassel thing.
I like the design of the jersey. I like that. I like the burgundy and the white and burgundy together. I'm not a huge fan of the name. Okay. Actually, like I thought when they came out, like, oh, it's going to be Commanders, and I'm like, really? I thought they were going to go with like Admirals or something like that.
Yeah, that's another good one.
To me, I liked the Admiral name better than Commanders, but I guess, who knows? Maybe the lawyer in Tennessee or wherever he was from got a hold of that. Got a hold of that.
Maybe the names were all again. I'm just glad it wasn't the red tails. I understand what the red tails symbolize, thing like that. But I mean, I just didn't sound right to me especially as a football team, as a name.
No,
but I think it's fine. It's gonna be taking a little used to, I guess, because again, us that have been watching it for so long and knowing these teams for their names, it's gonna take a little bit to get used to.
One thing's a good thing. They finally have a name now.
Yeah,
it's
not
no longer
team.
They're the football team from Washington. You know what I mean? Now they actually have a name, so I feel like maybe it might be a little easier for us to learn that a little faster than having no name.
Yeah, how about Dan Snyder? Didn't he look a little grub? Like he just rolled out of the gutter or something like that? Like he's looking rough.
He looked like he hasn't left the house in months. and just, hey, Dan, wake up. Dan, we got a press conference. Dan, come on.
Yeah, here, put this coat on. This will keep you warm. I've
been
sleeping outside.
Here, Dan, here. Read this. They got everything all planned out.
Oh, yeah.
This is for a guy in Dan Snyder that technically he's not the owner anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Technically it's his wife. So shouldn't his wife be the one, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's what I said, even co-owner and stuff. I'm like, that's so weird. I'm like, but whatever. It is what it is. But, yeah, Washington football team, they have their own new name and everything.
Congratulations.
So there it is. Look at the W. It's pretty much the same, just has some lines in between it, some zigzags, so whatever. But, yeah. All right, so there you go. Moving forward for them.
Congrats.
Now we can get past that whole thing.
There we go. Good
All right,
job.
so
Good job, Washington.
yeah, absolutely. Give them a hand for that.
Yeah,
but the big story that's going on right now, Joe, is the thing with Brian Flores right now.
Yep.
Again, we know around here, especially because he was looking at coaching jobs all over, and now the New York Giants had called him in, and I thought that was kind of a head scratcher, just because we already heard that Brian Daboll was coming in for his second interview, and then Brian Flores, I see it pops up because I follow the Giants and stuff like that. He's coming in too, and I'm like, why are you sending Daboll in for a second, and then you're bringing in Flores in again? And I'm like, I'm like, well, I don't know. For me, it's very difficult with some of these things and how you have to bounce around this Rooney Rule. And I think that's the probably leading part of this lawsuit and issues with the whole thing starts off into it. And then it kind of branched into something a little more toxic, poisonous, something different that grew onto its own entity here. But it's been a problem for a long time in the league in this Rooney Rule, to where now teams, they have to bring an African-American coach in just to talk to him at least, whether they've found their guy already or not, or are they looking at somebody. And it ends up being a waste of time for some of these coaches.
Yes.
And it ends up being very offensive too, because again, you get excited because you are called in. You understand that the rule is there, so automatically, I mean, I got to think of it and put it into, try and get into their brains or in their body. I'm getting called in. I'm already African-American. I'm already thinking, all right, is this part of your Rooney Rule deal? Is this going to be the horse and pony, or is it legit? Because I'm excited. And then he goes, and then you're already hearing the talking or whatever, and you're like, oh, yeah, it's one of these things. Okay, here we go. All right, well, we run this quick. What's going on here? And did all the traveling. There might have been other serious offers out there that you have to get to later or whatever, and it ends up being a whole problem. And this thing with Brian Flores, not only did he have that issue here with the Giants, and now the leaked text, that Bill Belichick, how does Bill Belichick I understand he says that there's snap face and face chat and everything. Like, he doesn't understand social media, but maybe he doesn't understand the cell phone and texting as well. But how do you accidentally text the wrong person this in one of these crucial type of things, game-changing moments in your career, and, oops, that's for the wrong guy. I effed up and all this stuff. So it branches into a whole different animal, Joe. What do you think about this whole situation?
I think as far as the texting goes, Bill Belichick is more savvy than he lets off. That's what I think. I think that he was trying to warn Brian Flores, but then he comes, and then to kind of save face, he's like, oh, wow, that wasn't meant for you. I'm sorry. But I feel like this whole situation, it comes to, there's a few things that come to a head with Brian Flores. One was when he was coaching for the Miami Dolphins, right? And the owner there, Stan Ross, was willing to pay him $100,000 per game that he loses. And that was it. He wanted him to lose to get a higher draft pick. And he was like, hey, I'll give you $100,000 every time you lose, every game that you lose. What do you think? Well, first off, Brian Flores is a competitor. He's been brought up by one of the best organizations and coaching staffs around in this league. With Bill Belichick, he's learned a ton from him. He's learned a ton from everybody there. And then he brings all that knowledge and pursuit of winning down to Florida. You think this guy's going to lose on purpose? Whether you pay him or not. No. He's even made statements, recently saying, he reported that, yes, that's a fact. I got offered $100,000 to lose games and just to get a higher draft pick. And he said, I'm not doing that to my players. I'm not doing that to my coaching staff. I'm not doing that to the trainer or the equipment guy. He goes, everybody in that building has an important job. And why would I lose on purpose when everybody works so hard for the coaching staff, and the coaching staffs work so hard for me to perform on Sunday? But that just doesn't make any sense. So he said, hell no, not doing that. I'm going to win. And they were 1-7 in the first half of the season. All of a sudden, they come storming back and win 8 straight games, which is truly amazing. So, and that, obviously, this is where the firing stems from for Brian Flores. Now that we know, we have this knowledge of everything that was taking place with Brian Flores there, now it's like it all makes sense. He didn't follow suit. He didn't go with the program. He didn't listen to the owner. So that's why he ends up getting fired. It doesn't matter how good of a coach he was. He just got fired because he didn't listen, wasn't a good soldier, So now you're out the door. Now, after that point, that's part of it. The other part of it is now that he has an opportunity to go somewhere else, maybe possibly head coach somewhere, He's going to these interviews and actually past interviews, even with the Denver Broncos when he interviewed with them. John Elway, who was the GM at the time, he said that he showed up to his interview. They were an hour late. Him and I believe the VP of operations. They were an hour late. They looked like they just rolled out of bed, and they were like hungover. How unprofessional is that? So they were treating that as like, oh, it's just the Rooney Rule thing.
Yeah.
So this is the problem. That in the past, his situation in Miami, and now currently going to try to find a job, finding out from Bill Belichick by accident, maybe not, but warning him basically like your trip to the Giants is basically like it doesn't matter. For this to all occur in a short amount of time for Brian Flores, it just kind of struck a bulb with him and said, you know what, it's not right yet. We don't have it the right way. So he's looking for some kind of a change for the NFL to do. He wants to go after these three teams that kind of, the Giants, the Broncos, and the Dolphins. Wants to make them kind of pay for, basically, I mean, let's just say he's basically pointing the finger at him, calling him racist. He's saying, hey, listen, you're not abiding by the Rooney Rule for what it stands for. I believe that there should be more opportunities than what they are for African Americans out there. Looking for a coaching, a coordinator job, an assistant job, something like that, any kind of promotion. So here we are right now with Brian Flores and his situation. He plans on suing the NFL, and these three teams are included. I don't know how far this is going to go because we've seen kind of this happen before. It's almost a similar situation with Colin Kaepernick. I hate bringing up Colin Kaepernick, but it's a very similar situation now where Colin Kaepernick meant for it to be about injustice in the league for players and even coaches. And instead, it got turned around. And for a lot of people out there, they didn't see it that way. If you're going to protest for social injustice and all that, whether it be in the workplace or outside, there's a certain way that you got to do it and handle it. And a lot of people view that he didn't handle it the right way. But it's very a similar situation right now with Brian Flores now. Now he has put himself in the forefront and said, you know what, NFL, you still don't have it right. I think there needs to be something done more, and that's why I'm suing you. And we've also heard recently that Hugh Jackson has also, echoed the same acknowledgement about the Cleveland Browns. And how he said that he was also offered as a head coach there, that he was offered money to lose games to get a higher draft pick. So now it makes you wonder, how far throughout the league does it go? There's definitely teams out there that do it the legit way, and they do bring in the right candidates and everything. But then there's also these, and we know it. Everybody knows it. Minority coaches know it. Anybody that is involved in the NFL knows that this happens, where some coaches, or I should say coaches, not coaches, teams. Mm-hmm. Some teams have a mindset like, okay, we have this vacancy open. We're going to go bring in this candidate, this one, and that one. Two of them happen to be black. But for some reason, they interview all three of them, and they say, okay, we're going to hire the white dude or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's where this is all stemming from. And here's the other thing that I just want to make a quick point about.
No, that's fine.
The Rooney Rule itself. When the Rooney Rule was brought up, I was all for this Rooney Rule, by the way, when it first got brought up into the NFL circles and the NFL meetings, and they were discussing on voting on this. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, though, because now this might open up some owners' eyes. It might open up some front office people's eyes to different candidates that they wouldn't normally bring in an interview, and maybe they get blown away, And maybe they're like, wow, this is the right guy. We got to hire this guy despite what his skin color is. I was like, okay, I'm on board with this. But now we fast forward now. Now it's a little bit different of an era. It's a little bit different how the football operations work with team to team and the hiring process and all that. The rule, I don't think, really works now. And this might be kind of the same thing that Brian Flores is kind of stating, is like, it doesn't work for this time. Mm-hmm. So the Rooney Rule I was all about, but now I feel like the Rooney Rule is hurting the interview process because now every team knows, whether it be a head coach or a coordinator or something like that, when you start your interview process, you have to absolutely. The requirement is you have to interview 2 minority coaches for that position, that vacant position.
Mm-hmm.
So if they go and they interview 4 or 5 guys, 2 of them happen to be African American, but they're blown away by 2 other guys that happen to be white, and they hire that guy. Now the team's looked at as like, wait a second, you didn't want to hire either one of these minorities that you interviewed? You didn't think they were qualified for the job? So that's where this is kind of headed. So I feel like there's 2 parts to this. A, I believe that yes, change still has to occur. But B, I feel like this Rooney Rule nowadays is kind of hindering front offices in their hiring process, because now that everyone knows that they're going to bring in a few minorities to appease that rule, and then they're going to choose who they really want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like there might be able to be some retooling. But here's the thing, is in the end, this is extremely difficult to try to fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it. It all comes down to mindset. It comes down to the owners of each organization. It comes down to the front office, the GMs that make the decisions on a daily basis. And until their minds change, that's really the problem here. Their minds have to change about candidates out there. And until it does, I don't think this is ever going to be resolved.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you on that point too, and that's kind of where we're facing right now.
I'm sorry, that was a little long-winded.
I hear you.
apologize.
It happens, though. I mean, we know how this show goes sometimes. It just goes to say your point. You got to let it out, though.
I had a lot of points.
I know, and
went
I
a little
agree
too
with you
long.
on some of them, too, as well. I'll try not to go as long-winded, I guess, here, but this is what you're looking at. Like you said, you got your 2 points. This Rooney Rule is again not. It's led to where it is now. But doing this, enacting this lawsuit, is hoping to inspire change. I think the wording and of his lawyer, for one, and the narrative they're trying to paint on the whole thing is a bit extreme, especially bringing up the fact that it's Black History Month and trying to go on that whole thing. But I think it will. Just like how some of the things or the emails with John Gruden and things like that had opened up a different side of these owners that you get to see.
Hey, where's
and then
the
to where
650,000 emails?
you see, that you open up the box and now it's open, and we'll see how far this thing goes down the rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. You hear about these things that are happening, certain organizations, the Broncos not taking them serious. I'm a Giants fan. I have wondered at times, even in my own thoughts, because I had thought that they should draft Lamar Jackson and then try and get Nick Chubb within a same draft. Then you think about it for a second. When was the last time that the New York Giants even thought about drafting a black quarterback? Would it look weird to have a black quarterback as the New York Giants face of the franchise? It might. It might be different. And it's not my point of view really as much as I've never really seen it from the Mara family and the way some of these owners have really kind of picked it that way. You've had black GMs, Jerry Reese as well, things like that, and that's gone through there and stuff. But you're talking about the face of the franchise. You're a head coach. Moving forward, they have always had these other tough-nosed type of guys, older white gentlemen until, McAdoo or then now Joe Judge. But you had these other names out there. We had brought up Louis Riddick possibly as a GM name for them, too, to move on to. Just swept aside this year, not even thought of again, even though they brought him in last year. And this does open up, I think, a different type of view on people and seeing these owners on top of the bribing for losing, much like in that movie Major League that we saw, and you think that's just a movie, and wow, look, this actually happens in real life. And I think that's something that shedded light on that was Bountygate. We got to see a franchise like the Saints that was beloved with, surviving the hurricane and Drew Brees out there, guilty of Bountygate. Putting money on the heads of quarterbacks for getting injured, getting hurt, and giving a price tag to these players to do so. So now that we're hearing about something like bribing to lose, to do this, so we get a better draft pick, maybe we'll just bring this guy in, to save face or whatever, so it shades that we don't get, that we don't get him here, but we get this white guy that looks more like us. This is what we want. Maybe they still have a problem with that, and they need to break out of this mold. Do they need to be called all racist and some of the things that are being said in this type of lawsuit by the lawyer and the law firm? I don't think so as much. But I think a lot of the names need to change, and a lot of their views on things. They need to be open to some of this. And I think the thing that has come and shed the light even on this whole thing, if you look here at a statement by the claim here, the lawsuit, this is some of the things I do here. It's going to shine some light on the racial injustices that take place inside the NFL and effectuate real change for the future. These are the following things. Some of these I think are some pretty good ideas, but I even have some add-ons I think I would do. Increasing the influence of black individuals in hiring and termination decisions for GM, head coaching, and coordinator jobs. We already kind of saw this happening with this. That's part of the Rooney Rule. Funding a committee dedicated to sourcing black investors to take majority ownership stakes in NFL teams. This might be a thing moving forward. Especially even trying to get some of the other minorities involved in buying teams. You've heard some other players from other sports. Even Patrick Mahomes had thought about buying another team, like a baseball team and things like that, and other ownership and other easier to purchase leagues like hockey league, like the hockey teams. But something moving forward into that is different. I would say onto that, how about you have John Mara, for one, is on the committee for racial, relations and this and this. Why not make a separate committee, not just the owners getting together in meetings, just a separate committee that's racially diverse, that makes the decisions, that comes up with an organized thing, to bring it then forward in front of maybe the owners to vote or the commissioner or whatever, to discuss and decide some of these other rules that are outside of what the owners say. Because owners have control of everything. They pay Roger Goodell. So basically, he acts like he's the enforcer, which he can on certain things.
Right.
But when it's all come down to it, they run the show.
Absolutely.
And if their mindset is already set that they don't want this to happen, or they kind of why change? Like they say, the good old boys club.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a separate committee that looks over these types of things and maybe kind of holds them in checks and balances.
And you can have that separate committee, but then it's going to always come back to that voting at team meetings where the owners are all there, the owners all get a vote, and whatever they come up with, it's going to probably be shut down. It's a good way to have a separate committee like that, but it can't just be black individuals.
No, that's what I'm saying, diverse.
No, I understand that's not how you feel.
Well,
I'm
but
just saying
with what they
with
said
the
here.
wording that they have, it should be minorities. It should be about any minority that is up for a head coaching gig or a GM gig or a front office gig, whatever have you. Even if you wanted to create a minority committee that could come up with maybe or change some ruling or change or have any kind of good ideas or statements that they might want to present to the league year to year, like an annual thing at the team meetings, and maybe they get voted in. Maybe. That's a good idea, but I fear that for a lot of the hard-headed already owners and set in their ways type of guys that have been there for years and years, or the family has been there for years and years owning the team, that they're not going to change their mindsets. And that's the unfortunate thing. What I see long term, what I hope happens long term, is and that's why I made that statement before about it won't change unless the owners change their minds. So if they are hard headed and they're never going to change their minds, whatever, the team when it's up for sale, we talk about for sale right now. Denver Broncos right now are up for sale. They are available. So if you want something to change, I recommend that. Now that this team is up for sale, minorities out there that have the moolah, that have all this kind of crazy money right now, now's your opportunity to get involved in the NFL. Become a owner of the Denver Broncos. Even if it's a minority ownership where you have 51% control, but then you divvy off the rest of the ownership, like a pie, but you have all control. You have 51%. That is the kind of movement, the kind of change that needs to happen. So now that the Broncos, here's the opportunity right now. So any minorities out there right now that have money, that have that are interested in purchasing or grouping together a bunch of people, all minorities, even maybe they're all minorities or whatever, to kind of pitch in and purchase this Denver Broncos team, where somebody is nominated as the overall owner, 51%.
Mm-hmm.
That is the kind of change that you need. Then you have a minority owner at the table now. You got one. You got to start somewhere, right? So you get one in there. A minority purchases this with a group or by himself or a couple, whatever, and they purchase the Denver Broncos right now. This is the kind of change that you need. Now you have a say at the table. Now, not saying that it's going to be easy for any minority owner to be the only guy there to have these discussions or votes or whatever, but at least you got your foot in the door. Now you're cracked the door open a little wider for more opportunities. Now the next time another team is open, then boom, jump on it. Jump on that opportunity. Now you got 2 at the table. Then you got 3. You know what I mean? Something like that
Right.
is what has to change. Something like that. Ownership, I feel like, is where the root of the problem is for not all teams. I don't believe all teams are racist, or they don't believe minorities can get these high caliber jobs, but there are some, and those teams, whoever they are, we don't know all of them. Maybe it's the Dolphins, because we heard about that situation. The Denver Broncos, maybe, but now's the time to make that change, and slowly but surely, I feel like this will change, but it's got to be at the ownership level.
Yeah, and we saw something trying to get to this far, but again, not able to purchase the team. But I think it was Sean Diddy Combs tried to purchase the Carolina Panthers a while back when they were,
and he was trying to get a couple on board with
trying
them,
to get more investors,
and that's what you need. You need minorities with money, power, and respect. That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The locks, baby.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I just heard that yesterday.
Money, power, and respect. So that's what you need right now. From these minorities that have big names that are out there, that have the big money, that have a lot of pull, around circles. So that's something that could happen. So like you bring up Sean Diddy Combs, right?
Yep.
Puff Daddy. He wanted to buy the Panthers. Now the Broncos are for sale now. Does that mean was it Carolina specifically? Because you know what I mean? Because that's around close to where he lives or something, or is he just looking for a way in? Because if he is, now might be the time. Maybe now he makes a move where now he's going to go for the Denver Broncos, which, to be honest with you, is not a bad franchise. I mean, they're not even in super bad.
This I tell you,
here.
it's sad, but this purchase might get not political, but it could get edgy. Just because now you've been hearing about Peyton Manning's group getting involved and looking to purchase the team.
Yeah.
And if, say, another minority leader, wants to join in, gets a committee together, and wants to challenge Peyton Manning for the team, say Peyton gets the team, that could be looked upon like, oh man, maybe this is another thing. Another white dude ends up getting the game, getting the team again and stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
So that gets kind of sketchy. Not that I'm thinking that way. We know how the narratives go a lot of times with these things. Right. So that could get edgy and sketchy there.
The only difference with that is that Peyton Manning was a player. It's not like he's a businessman from the outskirts that wants to push his way in.
Yeah.
I know
he's not like Sam Kroenke. And
I don't feel like it could, but I don't feel like that would become a
but maybe again with the way he is, especially with players and having plenty of friends too.
Right.
Maybe this entices him to get him and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to give a ring and see if he wants in on this with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe
call some of the former players that he knows too. Hey man, you want a piece of the pie?
Maybe he calls Puff Daddy right now.
Maybe he does.
Listen, because if he's interested in just obtaining an NFL franchise right now, and you have the inner workings of a Peyton Manning, who everybody loves and adores in the NFL circles, and how successful he was and how important he was to the game, and now he calls Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy calls, I don't know, Coolio, somebody.
No,
You know what I mean? Anybody like
a bunch
like
of people.
Dr.
Yeah,
Dre,
Dr. Dre maybe
or
again after this, yeah.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z, yeah, maybe.
You know,
yeah.
now they start to get like a small group of minorities to team up with Peyton, maybe, and Peyton.
Or again, maybe there's like LeBron. What are you thinking? Because again, he's made his deal a lot of money being a player since high school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Leaving high school to go to the NBA, and it was such an icon. Again, basically on that next upper echelon level, respected amongst a lot of people, especially for when he's out there on Twitter and voices his opinion.
Yeah.
And he's another name. That's another bigger name people draw to.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is like, and then you think about like maybe The Rock.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because he's a guy that's made a lot of money.
I would say that
he's
only got a lot invested in the X.
Yeah.
You know,
but I'm just saying, like that kind of formula, that kind of equation is what you need. And a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, well, that means that you're just going to make Peyton Manning the owner, right?" No, I'm saying maybe Peyton Manning wants to own a team, but he doesn't have to run it. You know what I mean? Like maybe he just wants to be part of the process, so he can be involved in maybe becomes like kind of like a GM type of deal, or if he wanted to be an owner and he wants to bring minorities up with him. Maybe it's a possibility where they could have co-owners where they have to mutually agree. So all he needs is 51%. Yeah, that's what we were talking about, Tom. You know, we were talking about all anybody needs to be is 51% if they're going to join in order to purchase an organization. We're talking about real quick. I don't know if when you got in tune here, but we're talking about the Brian Flores situation and how minorities are trying to get more opportunities. Flores is standing up, suing the NFL and all that. So now we kind of tailed off into ownership and how if there's going to be big change, no problem. And if there's going to be big change in the NFL from what they've already done. Listen, I feel like the NFL has tried to make a change, you know, social injustice and all that, and bring up more minorities for opportunities. However, I feel like it reached a point now where it's a stalemate. And the only time I feel like this is going to actually change is for some of these teams that come up for sale in the future. That's the opportunity to, at an ownership level, to get a minority owner in, to have a seat at the table, to have a discussion, to have some insight and voting power. That's where I think it will end up changing. So, Tom, that's kind of like a real brief summary of what we're at now. But what do you think, Tom? Let us know. And all you know-it-alls out there, let us know what you feel about the situation. Do you think that there still needs to be more change? And how? Our idea is we just came up with it on the show is it's got to change at the ownership level and go on from there. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I know. And like I said, this is, if anything, again, a lot of people thinking it's wrong, absolutely, you know, and things like that. Some people think it's extreme and like kind of like, yeah, whatever, man, and they'll just forget. Good luck suing the NFL, you know, they'll win on that, so what's the point? But, again, when everything happened a few years ago, you know, with everything with the world and Black Lives Matter and everything, and now they're trying to change things. They wear the new gear with the, you know, it's followed social justice and stuff, this and this. It is the right opportune time, I think, to jump onto this whole thing and maybe shed light to this. And like I said, if anything comes out of this, it is change that really with the rule and how it's enforced and what they do, they got to modify it somehow. I don't like the thing that they changed with giving a team that is able to get like a head coach or somebody in their rankings, front office brought up or whatever. Then if somebody grabs them, they get a draft pick all of a sudden out of that. Right, I really don't understand that because you're not really even rewarding. I guess you're rewarding them for having them on there. But I think the reward system, I think, is stupid.
Yes.
If you want to try and you're telling me something. All right, this is the thing. All right, say you want to trade. I want to trade you something. I have something you want.
Give it to me.
Say, you know, whatever. I have Sean Alexander right here.
All right,
Joe. I have Sean.
You got Sean Alexander.
Alexander.
I got Larry Johnson.
All right, I brought him up over here. I have Sean Alexander.
I got Larry.
You have Larry Johnson.
Yeah.
But you admire my Sean Alexander.
I do like Sean.
Right. But you would like him, and how about by purchasing or getting him instead, you would be able to get a draft pick because he is such a rare commodity that people don't usually have up, that we would give you an incentive to take Sean Alexander, but instead, by you taking him, I get rewarded by it. You know, by getting your Larry Johnson and something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does that seem fair to you, even in a sense? You know what I'm saying?
No.
Like, you're grabbing the guy that you want.
Right.
He's here. He's the guy that you want.
Yeah, yeah.
And he is happened to be a minority or whatever, something that's not to be shown there for a while.
Yeah.
That, you know, so you know, and you should be getting rewarded for doing that. That's the whole idea, right?
Right.
But instead, I get it.
Right.
How does that seem right? That it's something that you already want, that you know, I might have brought up in the ranks or that I had, but but then you get paid for it on top of it. I just don't get it. Like, I don't get the idea.
You're getting rewarded for giving something up.
For giving something away.
So, and we feel the same exact
and
way.
that just seems to me that it's wrong. Like, I get rewarded for getting rid of a person.
It goes all back to everyone gets a trophy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're rewarding someone for losing something, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And it doesn't stop there. So now they have that new rule about the front office. You lose a minority front office candidate, you get a draft pick. From who?
Yeah.
From where?
Yeah,
Just
where?
imagination.
It's like Oprah.
And just like the draft, this is something that drives us absolutely crazy. The draft, from the third round, at the end of the third round and on, at the end of every round after, there's supplementary picks or supplement picks. And I think it's the most ridiculous thing. So in free agency, if you lose however the NFL views certain players and they're free agents, and say you lose a hot commodity or a big time type player to free agency, guess what? You get rewarded for losing him. You get a third round pick or at the end of the fourth or at the end of the fifth or so on. Why should a team that lost, or maybe they didn't even want him in the first place and they don't sign him and he leaves, why should a team get rewarded for losing a free agent? That, to me, makes us absolutely nuts, and it takes away from the draft, actually. If you think about it, at the end of the third round is when they're allowed to start getting those, at the very end, after the round is over with. The losing team for last season that picks atop that fourth round, guess what? Maybe they wanted a linebacker from Arkansas. Maybe they wanted the guy that got taken with one of those supplement picks, an offensive lineman from Oregon. Maybe they wanted one of those guys, and they can't get him because instead of them having an opportunity to get him, now it goes to one of these teams that pick after the third round's over with those supplement picks. It's absolutely crazy. So it takes away from the draft, and then just like you were saying, now everybody's getting rewarded somehow for losing something. So ridiculous.
And for me, it kind of seems like it demeans, again, the person who got selected. I work hard. I try and get a better job. I get the job. But then all of a sudden, I want to take another bigger job after I've worked my tail off to get where I've gotten. I want to take that better job, and my employer all of a sudden gets rewarded because I decided to go somewhere and I worked hard, like they did something.
Right.
And like they did me a favor by hiring me. What the hell is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where it kind of bothers me with all this type of stuff here. It's still, when you're trying to be, it's like to somebody saying like, oh, I'm not racist, I have black friends. Like, that's what it's kind of like, you know? It's kind of like you're like, dude, we're trying to make this work for you guys, but we want to be able to get something from this still. It's like, what the hell? You're totally demeaning everything I've done to get this far by taking something yourself. I think the whole thing is stupid.
Yeah.
They just need to rework the whole thing. It's dumb.
Right. And going back, just real quick, to it, so we talk about this reward and release, whatever you want to call it, situations that the NFL has going on right now. Now you look at this Brian Flores situation. How far is this going to go in the court system? Brian Flores even said himself that he said that this is bigger than himself. He's not trying to get like his name out there or anything like that. This is him really wanting some kind of change somehow. And he said the only way he's going to do it is with a lawsuit. And that's with a lot of corporations are like that too. You know, the little guy, the little worker, whatever. Whatever. Just get rid of him, fire him. You know, he ain't going to do anything. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you got 5 of them suing you for, you know, practices that you weren't supposed to be doing. And that's when all of a sudden that corporation will change. So that's where Brian Flores is coming from. He feels like he's got to do this lawsuit for himself, for all other minorities involved, and in order to get something, kind of ruffled up, something changed up here in the NFL today. But the one thing that I want to also say about this whole situation is also, and I'm not condoning what has happened, but I wanted to make a clear statement too, is with this Rooney Rule, it's also backfired too. Because like we talked about recently, Flores going to the Giants interview process, but hey, they already made a decision. And this isn't the first time. It won't be the last time. This happens all the time. With this new Rooney Rule, it's requiring teams to bring in minorities, at least 2 of them, before they actually can hire anybody. So that's where this Rooney Rule is actually handcuffing teams and making them bring in minorities. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they already had their mind set on 2 or 3 guys, but now we got to bring in these other 2 guys because that's how we comply with the rule. So it goes both ways with this Rooney Rule. It hurts the team. It also, helps the team in a sense too, to give opportunities, but it's just not working out right now.
Right. And Tom says the flaw is that you're wasting someone's time bringing in a minority when you already know that you want somebody else.
Yeah,
and that's the thing too. You do. You waste his time.
The Rooney Rule there
again too, because he's going in there. I know you weren't here for this part, I think, Tom, but I looked at it as again, you're wasting my time. I feel excited that maybe I have a real shot at this thing, and when you get there, you're like, oh, I'm just here to be the token black guy that's here, or what? I mean, that seems like stupid. That seems bullshit. If I all of a sudden go for an interview for a job and they already picked the guy, they already know what they want to do, and then all of a sudden I'm going there, I'm excited, I'm dressed in a suit because I want to impress, and that's what I do. And then I go there and I'm like, oh, okay, it's one of those things again. Oh, I can't believe we're still doing this. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's kind of sad, and it's kind of tough. And when you hear the thing is too, I heard a statement about what the Maras also in the Giants have to answer to this. They're like, oh, no point did we think this. We just picked the more qualified client or person, and then that ends up being trigger words as well. More qualified, because when you look at Brian Daboll, he's been an assistant coach here and there, never a head coach.
Well, he's been a coordinator. That's a big deal.
Yeah. But Brian Flores was just recently a head coach.
Right.
So a lot of people's minds saying, isn't he more qualified? He was just a head coach, and he did well with the team. So you're looking at that. So they're like, how did you pick the more qualified guy? And then I look at it as the Giants knew they already wanted to get an offensive-minded coach.
Right.
They needed to fix the situation with the offense and to help bring up Daniel Jones and maybe see if he's the guy. What better than a guy that had done it with, the Buffalo Bills, and that's what they wanted. That's what they were looking for. So to bring in somebody like Brian Flores, defensive-minded coach, great coach as well, which I understand and I liked, and I don't understand the firing except for a couple points quick on that. But that's what they were looking for. So I think they should have maybe worded it in that sense and not so much as a more qualified guy. Tom Meyer says sometimes you can you can nail an interview. Jim Zorn nailed an OC job so well, Snyder made him the head coach. Yeah, sometimes you can too. Sometimes you surprise people. Imagine that phone call to Brian Daboll after. Like, yeah, I don't know. He kind of changed their mind last minute. He'd pull Josh McDaniels on him.
And that's another aspect that you brought up that a lot of teams do work with is, what kind of path do they want to take with coaches? Do they want more of an offensive background? Do they want more of a defensive background? You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's what happened with Josh Allen and the Bills, and that's what I think that's what they were looking that he could do for the team.
That's what happens with that team with the Giants organization is they made a decision. Maybe even before they started interviewing people, that we want to go more offensive because maybe that's going to help Daniel Jones succeed better. And just like you just mentioned, they saw what Brian Daboll did with the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, was involved heavily calling all the plays, and it worked really well with having Josh Allen. We noticed a little bit of success with Daniel Jones this season in him running with the football at times too. So maybe they said, wow. maybe we can bring in Brian Daboll right now. We can have him teach his offense that he wants to implement with Daniel Jones. It might be a marriage that works really well, and then we got our guy. So and you also brought up earlier in the show about why would they bring in Flores for an interview, his first interview, when they were starting to bring in Daboll for his second interview? And I would say just this: due diligence. The Giants were going to bring him in to see what he had to offer as a head coach. Now just leaving the Miami Dolphins, and he has a defensive background, so he's obviously going to be more geared to that defense, to making it even better than what it already is. And what is his plan for the offense? And I feel like that's where he would have struggled in that interview process, and then they made their decision with Daboll. So there's that aspect, too, of the interview process where you're not really sure what teams are thinking of what direction they want to head with their new head coach.
Yeah. So just in closing for this whole thing, too, it's going to be a thing we're going to talk about for a little while, I think, with this. I like in a sense of where the idea of it. It hopefully does bring forth some change. I think some of the wording of the lawsuit and the way it is brought out there by the law firm is a little extreme. And also, how damaging is it going to be to Brian Flores' career? Because he is, like you said, laying it all on the line. He doesn't care. This is bigger than him. I think he did get shafted. And out of this thing, I think what we had been saying this whole time and what the media has probably been getting wrong the whole time, it just brought it up. There was a meeting that he had with the ownership of the Miami Dolphins on a yacht to where they wanted to talk about a certain profound quarterback out there, about tampering, talking to him ahead and coercing him to come to the team. And they didn't do it before, and then they invited him to this yacht, and wouldn't you know it, that player happens to be there. I really don't think they're trying to portray it as the ownership wanted Tua and wanted him to be a starter. They were so set on it that when they drafted him, that's what they wanted. That was their guy.
Right.
Brian Flores wasn't down with it, and and that's why he's out. I don't think that's what it is. I think Brian Flores is who I thought he is. He's true to his word. He's a tough, hard-nosed guy. Tries to preach that throughout his team. No other guy would do that when they're on a fire sale, getting rid of everybody. They're trying to pay him money to lose that particular season, 2019. By the way, this all went on in 2019. Same type of timing we think that the whole Deshaun Watson thing came out. That they actually win, and they were hindering Miami's chances, but they were still able to get Tua within that draft, though, at that same position where they did. But they did drop spots. But still, you were hearing that they were interested in Deshaun Watson. And Brian Flores, I think, more in his mind was, I think we can work with what we have, because that's how he teaches. That's how he does it. You're here. You do your job. We'll get the picks, the draft picks, just like the Patriots will do too, and we'll make it work with who we have, system guys, and it also works about this guy here doing his job to get it done, and we work together as a team. And I think they were just sold on what they wanted to do so much that they butt heads. They're oil and vinegar, and it didn't work. So I think this has shed some light on that. And I think it was about the Deshaun Watson thing. They wanted Deshaun Watson. He said, no, we can do it. And not taking the money. And then this thing, that was it. That was the ending.
Absolutely. And you talk about, that whole scenario. Brian Flores, listen, he told them, I can win with this team. We're going to get – it's not going to be in the short term. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we will be competitive. We will win. We will push for this division eventually and into the playoffs. So, listen, and I will say this. Not only did I think he did an admirable job as a head coach for the Dolphins, but I think that he was absolutely the right guy for the job. And the team was tracking upwards. They were tracking upwards so much that before this season even happened, I had a lot of confidence in the Dolphins. I thought they were going to at least be second in the division. I thought that they were going to make a major push here. And that just shows you how much a head coach can inspire change in the locker room, can inspire guys, and they were adding talent. They were building that franchise up once again. And then for them to come out and they end up firing Flores, definitely the worst decision they've ever made. And now they're bringing in basically trash coaches lined up for this gig, which, basically yes man. You know what I mean? They're looking for yes men. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, it almost seems like the owner wants to control everything and just wants the head coach to be a puppet, and that's what Brian Flores was not willing to do.
Right, and Tom Leiter says, was Flores the GM? The GM puts together the roster. The coach works with the tools he has. We understand that, definitely, but again, I think they wanted him to be one of those beacons that draws people there. I'm sure on that yacht, Chris Greer, who is the GM for the Miami Dolphins, was there too, right alongside ownership. Hey, yeah, maybe we can make this work while we're all here. Let's talk about it. Because, again, I mean, he is not going to be the guy that makes the official call on it.
No.
But how many times do you hear and see it in the war room on draft day that coaches are there with the GMs? Hey, this is my guy. Let's go out and get this guy. I like what he does. Influence. They're influencers on these decisions and what they're doing. Not always the guy that does pull the trigger on it.
Right.
But this is what we've seen. And we've seen some of these organizations, too, run backwards with some of these guys. How Jerry Jones, look what he's done with the Cowboys and stuff like that. And, yeah, he is the owner and the GM and stuff, but trying to fight against certain coaches that butt heads with him. So what does he do? He gets a yes-man coach. Here you go. Do what I tell you and shut the hell up. I don't need you confronting with me or you'll be out of here. And so you see it's going on. And I'm not surprised with the Miami Dolphins. They've had a history of this type of stuff going on, backdoor type of stuff.
Yeah, now I no longer have confidence in them.
No, absolutely not. Like you say, and you wonder how deep it goes. But we thank you guys for the comments out there.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's been cool. And we got some more to talk about. But I want to tell you guys first about my friends at Mohawk Honda. That's right. It's been too long we talked about Mohawk Honda. Joe, I'm sitting there. I drive by the dealership. It's still locked up with cars. But you know what? Also, I follow them on Facebook. I can't get enough of Mohawk Honda.
Really? Wow.
I know. I love these guys. They do, because I go there for oil changes, things like that, because I don't want to do it in the freezing cold. So I'll go there and check it out.
They really pleased you, didn't they?
They do. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. They say hi to you. It's like they remember me when I go in there too, Joe. But they're selling cars nonstop. They posted pictures like "Welcome to the family," like this. Not it was like you see these other dealerships. They don't say anything about selling a car to a certain person. It's like, oh, we sold this many cars, and we're the number one dealership in North America. Blah blah. You see the pictures with the people. They're shaking hands, masks and everything and stuff too. But they're there. New family member. It's a new year, so there's new goals at Mohawk Honda. That's right. They still got the IB, whatever it's called. It's like IBCCC. The Kelly Blue Book instant cash offer. That's what it is. I'll get it right. But what it is, Kelly Blue Book, whatever your car's worth, they'll give you a cash right there to check right there what it's worth. If you want to trade it in on the car that you want, the car of your dreams, I'm sure it's there at Mohawk Honda. Just check it out. Just talk to my man, Jake Hot Sauce Doyle, or the VIP man, Morales, there as well. Cam McKenna, too, he's there. So talk to those guys. Get you in the ride that you want, the ride that you deserve for the payment you want, too. And less hassles. Or if you want the check, take the check too. Why not? Take the money and get out of there. Why not? Go to Mohawk Honda, Freeman's Ridge Road, where they go out of their way to please you. Joe, also, it's wintertime. It's been getting freezing. It's been winter, but it's been freezing. But today was a heat spell. 40 degrees today, and it seemed like it was summer up here. The ice is melting just to start flooding things all over. And everybody's scared about a blizzard that's going to happen, but we're going to get rain up here. But they still want to warn you about the blizzard. But
blizzard's
if
coming.
You're feeling cold, Joe, if you're feeling cold, what can people do? Talk to our friends here at Johnstone Supply.
Listen, you bring up the frigid air that's been up here, up north, and we had the snow and we had the ice. It was nice and warm. It melted a lot of the snow and ice, but everyone keeps pushing for the storm to be coming through and making a big difference. But anyway, if the frigid winter is here, the air is setting in, and it's more important than ever to make sure that your furnace or boiler is ready to handle the extra workload. Johnstone Supply in Troy, New York is ready to help you. The crew at Johnstone Supply will give you the advice that you need to figure out the best solution for you guys out there. Johnstone Supply in Troy has the new high-efficient Goodman furnace and the Naveen boiler.
That's right.
I mean, this is the top-notch shit right here.
It is.
So you can stop into 6th Avenue in Troy, New York, and say hi, ask a few questions.
George out there.
Or Call John Stone Supply at 518-272-5922. That's 518-272-5922. And do us a favor, hit number 2 if you give them a phone call for the counter guys and tell Tom, Kevin, James, or Rob that you heard it right here on Football on the No Show.
That's right.
Really nice.
Tom, there he goes. But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Yeah.
If you call now,
we'll throw in a ShamWow.
ShamWow.
No, how about how about some Football on the No masks?
Also, real quick, they do have more locations than just upstate New York. They also have a location in Florida, and. Is there another one
I
out
think
west
Tom
or
knows
something?
there's one out there in Washington somewhere,
I think
but
Tom
I don't
brought
think
it
that
up.
one's owned by George, though. So don't go to that one,
Don't
Tom.
go to George.
Don't go to that one. Go to the one that's owned by George and stuff that's up here or in Florida. Check it out. Go visit Mike Tackett down in Florida, and you guys can go go through the Johnstone Supply. Like, hey, we heard about this place. Look at this place. Oh, but anyways, Joe.
Yeah.
So, we thank our sponsors this year. It's been a great year
It has
for
been a
us.
great
We've
year.
moved forward with Godzilla Media. We're growing together as a company. Tom, now you're out here on with us. We just want to let you know that Radio Row is set up for us. We're going to be doing it locally here, though, but we have some
virtual Radio Row.
big names virtually for you guys. We're going to release that as soon as we can, probably in the next couple of days here, let you guys know who we're going to be interviewing.
Yes.
And you're going to be excited about this, so we're going to post the videos as soon as we can.
And just
then also we will be doing a show of the day of the Super Bowl, an hour and a half starting before the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl
Right
Sunday
into the start of the game.
Spectacular.
So, absolutely. So check us out on that. Again, more details moving forward.
With Levac and Goss, we're going to be doing
with
that.
Levac and Gaz. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So it's going to be the 4 horsemen together
That's
again.
right. Yeah. Yeah, buddy. Let's go.
All right, so we were talking about coaching hires a little bit here, Joe. We talked about Brian Dable and the New York Giants here. What some other interesting and other coaching hires out there? I mean, we've already touched about Dable, so I don't know if there's much more to bring up because we know
we did
saw
a
what
little
he
bit
did with Josh Allen and all that. We expected what we're going to get.
Yeah.
I think it's for me as a Giants fan, I like it. And again, I think it's kind of
you
expected
like it?
because you even saw Joe Shane. Once they hired Joe Shane, that he's from the Buffalo tree there, at least from there, and it made sense. Put the pieces together.
Isn't it funny how like 2 teams that have made their hires have predominant from a former team? So the Giants hire the GM,
Relationships.
a GM from the Bills organization. That's their GM. Now they bring in the offensive coordinator as their head coach from the Bills. You know what I mean? And it probably won't stop there. They'll probably try to
but there's more.
but wait, there's more. They'll probably even try to bring over a couple more assistants or something like that for promotions or whatever to keep the kind of continuity going there, with the front office. And then the Raiders, they did the same kind of thing. They hired Dave Ziegler, former assistant GM from the Patriots, bring him over to be the GM of the Raiders. And then shortly after, here comes Josh McDaniels, the one guy that we thought would never take another head coaching job other than the Patriots.
Giving up.
So, and apparently it was a good fit. So, Josh McDaniels ends up being the head coach. Now you got another former Patriot there. And it doesn't stop there. But wait, Tom, there's more.
Stop giving
They
up.
also reach out to Champ Kelly, who did interview for the GM job for the Raiders. Another former Patriot, it comes up to be, and he's ended up hired as the assistant GM for the Raiders. So you're seeing a lot of this happen more often now than it usually does. Usually they hire the head coach or the GM, and the GM goes and finds the head coach, and it's usually someone different, and then they put a different staff together. So let's see how this all unravels because it's still early, but before we get to more head coaching hires, I just want to say for anybody that has tuned in to Football on the No Show and for all the current and maybe soon to be know-it-alls out there, we want to thank you guys a lot for all the support. If you're new to the show, just checking in, maybe you checked a little earlier, maybe you'll see this later, but head over to YouTube and Facebook, search us up on Football on the No Show. On YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live, and become a know-it-all. We're also on Twitter at FB_know. And also, listen, we're the most interactive show right now for you guys. We're here for you. Tom can vouch for us. Mike can vouch for us. One of our old school know-it-alls that have been here since day one. We are here. We like to interact. We like to get your ideas, your opinions, and even questions about anything related to football, fantasy, real football, about your teams, about even the coaching situations. We're here for you guys. So thank you guys so much. And not to mention, anywhere you can find your podcast. We know there's some podcasters out there listening to us. Make sure you follow us on anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, iTunes, you name it, we're there. Hit a follow and follow us. Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely. Now, talking about your Raiders, like you have seen Josh McDaniels as the head coach for the Denver Broncos.
Yes.
And he didn't do so well there.
No.
Really high on Tim Tebow. Brought him there, tried to make things work there. Selected as the head coach for the Colts. Backed out last minute to stay with the Patriots. Now your team has him.
Yeah.
Are you really excited for having Josh McDaniels, or are you kind of on the sketchiness here?
I don't think there's any sketchiness right now because, listen, one, he didn't pull out of the deal. That was one thing. As far as Denver Broncos goes, when I was thinking about this after they decided to officially make it a hire, the deal is when he went to Denver, he had no quarterback. He was desperate for a quarterback. So he had to take one, and that year wasn't very good for quarterbacks. So it was almost like a desperation move when he was in Denver. He almost felt forced that he had to trade up as high as he did to get Tim Tebow, was worried about missing out on a quarterback. And he said, listen, I know he's rough around the edges. He's not really a quarterback. Maybe I can work with him and create an offense that's going to fit him and become successful. Tim Tebow, we all, hindsight's 20/20. Now that we've seen what Tim Tebow turned out to be, Tim Tebow never amounted to being an actual NFL quarterback to adapt to a playbook in the NFL. Josh McDaniels literally had to make a very similar, if not almost identical, college playbook that he once had in Florida to get him to be successful. Running the football, throwing the football, kind of gimmick plays in a sense, option plays and all that. And that's kind of what made them successful for a year. But then it broke down because why? Defenses got all the game tape they need. They broke it down. This is how we're going to attack Tim Tebow. This is what he doesn't like. We're going to do all these things. And then it was a dismal season. So 12 games in his second year ends up getting canned by Denver. I think that was a little too abrupt, but hey, it's what have you done for me lately?
Right.
Very too soon, but in the end, that's where I think with that situation, why McDaniels ended up failing. And there was also reports of him not being able to get along with players, not being able to get along with his own coaching staff at times. And I think 12 years removed from that state, about 10 more years like 12 years with Bill Belichick, back with him again, learning from Bill Belichick for that long, being the offensive coordinator for the Patriots for that long, and learning from his mistakes in Denver, to now going back to home, basically in New England, and staying there for another 12 years or so, I think it's taught him more about, wow, well, I should have did this differently. If the next opportunity that I get and I feel like it's right for me, I'm going to do it this way instead. So I feel like he's learned from his mistakes, and obviously it remains to be seen. It's got to be proven to us. But I feel like with him to take this job with the Raiders, I saw his press conference, kept saying that it had to be the right fit for him. It had to be the right team. And what I thought he looked at is quarterback.
Right.
So you look at Derek Carr now, still with the Raiders. He has a year left on his contract. Josh McDaniels said, I can win with this guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This guy is not only a top 10 quarterback, but I think I could make him even better. With my offense that I implement and whatever changes that we do on the roster, I feel like we can be better. I mean, you look at the roster, and McDaniels definitely noticed this. You look at Hunter Renfrow, that's like Julian Edelman, Wes Welker 2.0.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at Darren Waller, that's like a Rob Gronkowski type caliber tight end, right? You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
He saw a lot of similarities that he can utilize, and he plans on doing a lot of
quarterback that can absorb the offense too as well.
Double tight end sets, just like the Patriots' old offense used to run. You know what I mean? Still does a little bit. And then also, he's got a running back. he's got a lot of pieces there. He just got to build the rest of the team. Couple offensive linemen. Defense needs to get a little bit better. And then there you have it. They could be right back in the playoffs next season.
Yeah, and then Tom says he could have had luck at Indy at number 1 overall pick. He could have, but again, now that we know what all happened with him getting banged up so much and just kind of being like, yo, I'm just done with football altogether. He would have been back in the situation, and who knows if we'd even see Carson Wentz come there. Carson Wentz come there, they would go somewhere else.
To be fair with Tom's statement, though, he's right. He could have had luck.
Yeah, he could have.
In hindsight's 2020, we didn't know that luck was going to be like all of a sudden can't play.
Yeah.
But also in that same situation, what did Indy really have? They had T.Y. Hilton. They had I'm going to forget Reggie Wayne. I think was still playing. No, he wasn't playing.
No, I don't think
Who
so.
was it? There was another receiver that they had. But again, that team wasn't built up. Their offensive line wasn't super great then.
They were just kind of on the young and up and coming just a bit, just getting started.
They had luck, but they didn't really have a very I know T.Y. Hilton was there, but there was somebody else, I think. And then the defense wasn't very good. It was a sieve. It was terrible. So, luck got them into the playoffs. Luck got them to be relevant and to be competitive. But other than that, they didn't have a big nucleus of players that McDaniels probably felt he could be behind and say, I can win with all these guys. So let's see, different situation, and we'll see where it goes.
Right. So what's another head coaching position that you thought was a good hiring for the opening teams that were left over? We had a list of it, a week or so ago. Of all those guys out there looking for a head coach.
I thought that one of the best hires right now is the Chicago Bears. They hired Matt Uberfluss.
See that 10 times fast.
Yeah, Uberfluss. There you go. Listen, I think this is a really good hire by the Chicago Bears. He's a former Colt. He was the defensive coordinator for the Colts. So you could tell, and this is what we talked about earlier, the Bears probably wanted that tough Bears defense back again. So they went with a defensive head coach, more with Uberfluss. And they also hired a new GM, Ryan Poles, who's a former chief. And offensive, they already got their coordinators already. Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator, and Alan Williams, who as defensive coordinator, who was the secondary coach of the Colts. So there's some familiarity there and understands the defense. So I felt like that was a really good coaching hire. They were one of the first to get a head coach, and now it seems like they're kind of filling out their roster right now. So to me, I feel like that was a really good hire. I feel like that adds the Bears stability. I feel like listen, he hasn't been a head coach yet, so he's still kind of got to learn how to manage the team and all that type of deal. But I feel like it's a good fit and a good hire for the Bears going forward.
Yeah, and I agree with you there too as well. And they really need to now. It's going to be Justin Fields' team, and we know that for sure this year moving forward. Now they can focus on getting him some more weapons, maybe trying to keep Allen Robinson long term if they can here, or if he's definitely out the door, they need to
he's out.
Do that.
He's out.
So
there's no doubt.
They need to be able to get that offense going, because that's the problem that they had. That defense had some injuries that kind of hindered them at times. It really couldn't get it going for them in that point. But I think they're still stronger on that side, and I think to get this offense going is only going to help this team get more balanced.
Yeah, and that's to me that was a little bit of a strange direction to go. They went defensive-minded head coach versus offensive. When you have a young quarterback in Justin Fields, I felt like that would have been maybe a little bit better. But Uberfluss, I feel like, was one of those top candidates out there, and they were able to lock him up pretty early. So I think they're in good hands. We'll see how it all shakes out. But, yeah, there's a lot. Look at Allen Robinson, like you just brought up. He's dead set on being out of there. Yeah. So he is definitely a free agent. They are not tagging him again, and let's see where he ends up. So that'll make that interesting. Another team that hired a head coach, I'm not necessarily thrilled about the hiring, but I know why they made the hire, is the Denver Broncos and hiring Nathaniel Hackett as their head coach, offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. But here's the funny thing is they say offensive coordinator or quarterback's coach or whatever, but we all know with the Packers that the head coach is really the offensive coordinator. He's the one calling the plays. So now with Nathaniel Hackett, what is why they hire him? Was he worthy of the position? Maybe. But also, the Denver Broncos have an ulterior motive here. And they're one of those teams that really want Aaron Rodgers if he's available, if he's thinking about leaving Green Bay, which a lot of reports are rumoring and saying out there. So they think by getting Nathaniel Hackett as head coach, who's a former Green Bay Packer on the staff, and Justin Outen, who's the offensive coordinator now, who was a former Packer on staff, that they think they can lure him to like, hey, listen, you want to leave Green Bay? Come to us. We have a couple of friends right here. And that's their way of probably enticing Aaron Rodgers, if he does decide to leave Green Bay, that they're like, well, I think we got the one up here. I think we can we have some weapons he can work with. We have an okay offensive line that we probably still have to upgrade. And we have, hey, guess what? A couple of your buddies from Green Bay are here, so maybe we could kind of bring them this way.
Yeah, that's the thing. You want to put two together. Tom, it's funny we jumped in front of him in his past couple of things here. He says you beat us to it again on the questions. And this is what the media wants to jump on board too, because you want to connect dots.
Yeah,
you want to be able to
absolutely.
try and form opinions on this. Does it make sense? All right, yeah. But then you look at Aaron Rodgers again then too, and how many times has he exactly made sense on a lot of these things? He made sure that he went out there and said, when they asked about Nathaniel Hackett, what do you think? Oh, he's been great. He's been a great to work for, and I love him, and I appreciate what he can do. And if he becomes a head coach, I would love to play for him. All this stuff, throwing it out there, dangling the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
But I'm not exactly sold on Aaron Rodgers really going to Denver. I mean, he could be toying with him out there and still looking out there for other positions here, something else that even give him some more money. But scenarios, they're trying to make it worth to him, and he does have great wide receiver talent there.
Yep.
I mean, we got
Young.
Jerry Jeudy as long as he stays healthy too.
Cortland Sutton.
Cortland Sutton, absolutely. Noah Fant at the tight end that he can give it to.
And Cortland Sutton just signed a 3-year deal extension, so he's staying there. It's not like he's going to be a free agent.
And that defense, I think, has kind of been a surprise for me this year. I thought they played really well, even after trading, Von Miller. I think they did well at times for them, and who knows? We'll see what happens. It's leading that way, but I would not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers goes somewhere else and then drops the mic on him on that whole thing and leaves them there with these Packers, guys, which I think are qualified still. What the Green Bay Packers have been able to do offensively and things for the franchise and keeping them relevant, going through some of the woes that they've gone through. But who knows?
And that's the thing,
stranger
too,
things have happened
about the Denver Broncos. Guess what they lose? They lose Vic Fangio, a guy that built that defense up, the guy that was coaching that defense up. That is a huge loss that no one is paying attention to. They might have more talent on that side of the ball, younger talent or whatever now. However, Justin Simmons was franchise tagged last year. He might look to leave. The all-pro safety that the Denver Broncos have. If that happens, that's a huge loss. And then you look at who's going to be the DC now of the Denver Broncos, because this team is going to go through a little bit of a change defensively, and it might disrupt all the momentum that this defense was making, and it might change some mindsets of the players that are playing defense. Hey, we lost Vic. Do you want to stay here and deal with a brand-new coaching staff? Maybe not. Maybe they look to leave. A lot still has yet to transpire. However, and I agree with you about how I don't think this is like dead set, like Aaron Rodgers is definitely coming to Denver, like a lot of people are kind of, reporting out there.
Yeah.
I think
Tom says real quick, sorry, just quick. He says Denver signed an aging quarterback before and it worked out pretty well.
Well,
and then he brings out Peyton Manning,
because it was a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
I
yeah.
mean,
and Aaron Rodgers, it makes sense for them too. But again, I know Aaron Rodgers and what he's done.
But here's the thing: is for Aaron Rodgers, he wants to go to a team that is Super Bowl capable. I don't see that in Denver right now, and there's a lot of things they got to fix there.
Plus, when you have the competition within that division, we've seen multiple teams make it as far. I mean, look at the 49ers and the Rams, both NFC West teams, and then the Cardinals also made. So 3 out of the 4 teams in that division made the playoffs.
Right.
But, when you got now Josh McDaniels with the Raiders, you've got the Chargers who still look good with Justin Herbert. The Chiefs still not going away, I think, too, all in that same division there. That's going to be a tough battle for them.
Well, it'll be a tough battle, but if you add Aaron
Rodgers,
Rodgers,
Aaron freaking Rodgers, right?
He's going to win a lot. Listen, you look at these games that Denver Broncos have played. They played a lot of close games, especially in their division. You had Rodgers, a more than capable, a Hall of Famer type quarterback to your team. He probably ends up winning a lot of those battles. and brings Denver right up. But what the point I was trying to make is that Aaron Rodgers is going to look for the right situation for himself. He's going to look for a team that is ready to possibly win a Super Bowl right away. Now look at Tampa Bay right now. Tom Brady announced his retirement, everybody, if you haven't heard, if you live under a rock. But there's an opportunity right there where Aaron Rodgers could kind of just fill those shoes right back up with a quarterback. He goes to Tampa. That team is already ready to go and get back to the Super Bowl. Listen, Tom Brady and company made it back. Not the same team so much because of injuries and what have you, but a team that is more than capable. If they add another quarterback like a Rodgers, they put themselves right back in the Super Bowl run again. You know what I mean? So that's an option. There's going to be teams out there looking, and you could even say like, okay, well, what other teams possibly could add them that we're not looking at right now? And I'm sorry, but I feel this way. Like the Niners, they already are preparing to move on from Jimmy G, right? They're already working on possibly trying to trade him, have the parameters all set, and they don't know what team yet, but they're trying to get rid of him and move on. Tom just chimed in, Rodgers to New England. No, I don't think that's even a possibility. They got their guy, Mac Jones. Mac Jones fits their offense. He's the guy there. And you see how successful of a rookie year he had. No way that's going to cross their minds or even entertain it. But Aaron Rodgers, I could see, why not San Fran? I mean, Jimmy G leaves. They're going to get rid of him. I understand they used a high draft pick on Trey Lance. But Trey Lance, I really don't know if he's going to become that legitimate franchise quarterback for the Niners. A guy that's been not as experienced in throwing the football in college, and now he's in the pros. Guy seen more as a runner than a thrower. And if you were, I know, Rodgers ain't going to be there forever, but what if they do kind of like a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers type of situation where now they bring in Rodgers, they have Trey Lance learn under Rodgers for the next 3 or so years, and then, boom, you insert him right now on the Niners. I think that team, it makes them super dangerous next season. Definitely Super Bowl contending for sure. I mean, you've seen what they did this year with Jimmy G. So that's another option too. And there's other options out there. However, that's the point I'm getting to. I feel like Rodgers is going to choose the best situation possible for him to go to. And I'm not necessarily 100% sure it is Denver.
Yeah, they would have to rework some money deal here for the 49ers for him to go there and get paid. But interesting teams that you could speculate about that he hasn't really probably openly said about. But teams that are young and good, look at the Dolphins and what they were able to do. If they have money to pay him.
Yeah,
you know
I
what
don't think that won't do that.
And look at the Washington football team, even a year removed.
Washington
they did
would.
lose. They had a really good defense, and Chase Young was gone for most of the season year.
The only
get
problem
another weapon or so there, and look at that. That could be interesting. I'm just trying to look at where they could pay him. A lot of people were thinking Steelers too. With the way that team is kind of built and get quarterbacks.
I don't see the Steelers because that team is going to go under a little bit of a retooling, a rebuild. Because what do they have right now? Juju's going to be a free agent. He's not staying. He knows that Big Ben's gone. He's leaving. He's out of there. So now you basically have Chase Claypool, Deontay, I drop a lot of balls, Johnson, and a couple of tight ends that you can work with. And a poor offensive line. You have a great running back right there, right behind you. But other than that, they need to fix a lot of issues. And then defensively, they lost their DC. He's gone. And they're going to lose some players here. And some players are aging to the point where they need to really figure a lot of things out. So that team is under a lot of change right now. And they still don't have think Rodgers might possibly go there.
Well, it's just
but I
trying
just
to
don't
see like certain things that would look nice. Because again, if you want to look at some of the other teams that are available too, I think that there's so many that are kind of jacked with some of this cap space that they have to deal with next year. I think it's crazy the moves that are going to be made next year.
Yeah,
as casualties.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the Saints, you look at the Rams, you look at all those teams that kind of put
Packers
all their money
themselves
into the middle of the table. And now they're going to, hey, guess what? The Reaper's here to collect.
Yeah.
So it's going to cost them a handsome amount. So, but real quick, though, Steelers, Washington, is a good situation where Aaron Rodgers could be inserted. However, they need to add a ton more weapons. They got Curtis Samuel. They got Terry McLaurin. Curtis Samuel hardly ever played this season, so you wonder how healthy he's going to be going forward. They have their tight end there. That's one of their go-to guys, Antonio Gibson in the backfield. So they got some pieces. But the real problem is their offensive line. It wasn't that good this year. And I worry that Rodgers might look at that and say, hey, listen, you plan on fixing that? Because if I'm going to come there, that needs to be fixed. If that doesn't get fixed, I'm not playing. Listen, we already seen him in Green Bay. He had a bad toe this year. He was a little ailed throughout the season. He's looking to go to a team that can not only protect him, but also give him the tools needed to succeed and go to the Super Bowl. So Washington is possibly that team because they have the money and they have some pieces there to work with. But I feel like when you have teams that are kind of like let's just say the Colts, for example. What do they have for money?
Where I just saw they're up there at $40 billion. Yeah, so
the
they're
Colts,
an opportunity.
To me, the Colts.
Yeah.
If Aaron Rodgers is going to be honest with himself, that to me is what probably the best situation for him. You think about that offensive line, how stout that offensive line is. You got Jonathan Taylor, Pro Bowler, and Jonathan Taylor now behind you. So you have kind of like that Green Bay-ish type of team. You have one old veteran, T.Y. Hilton, who I kind of believe he's going to retire. I don't know how long he's going to go. He's been injured too often. He might retire. But you have another young wide receiver who's been developing on the opposite side, in Michael Pittman Jr. And he looks like he can take that next step, especially for the following season. Now you just had a couple of pieces, and boom, look at that offense. You had Rodgers insert there. Oh, my God. Already a really good defense. That, to me, is like the perfect situation right now for Aaron Rodgers is right there. Washington is an option because they have the money to do it. But I wouldn't put past – I know Tampa Bay is in kind of cap constraints this season, too.
Yeah, again,
what do they have? Do they have any money available right now?
Right now they're at $6 million, but once the season starts, if they sign 51 men to the roster, they're at $400,000.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like that'll
things
happen
gotta get
unless
reworked.
Unless they rework, because that's here's the one thing that is as bad as it looks. A lot of times
they do work.
They
things
can
out.
they can come up with some situations where they kind of give you a signing bonus instead and rework your contract to the point where like that takes a lot of money off the cap, and then they'll be able to afford them. So they might be able to manipulate it enough to maybe add Aaron Rodgers in Tampa Bay, but. All in all we're saying is that there are a lot of options for Rodgers to think about, to go and meet with, and see who presents the best opportunity for him. And like I said, I think the Colts are the best one though.
Yeah, that's a nice one too. It's funny when you start looking at it, trying to balance, with money what they got to spend, but then team, that they have.
The Colts. What does San Fran have?
San Fran is quick. Like towards the middle of the pack.
Middle of the pack.
Like
so they're in good.
They're at $5 million actually, and then if they do sign the 51 men, it says over the cap. So again,
I think they can
they
could redo contracts.
That's within range that they can make things work.
Here's the bottom line: is what I'll say is a team that is ready to win now. Or the teams that should be going after him. And Rodgers is going to be more attracted to those teams anyway. So the Denver Broncos, I know they're taking a Hail Mary here. They think they can add a couple of Green Bay guys, one being now the head coach of Denver, and say, well, that's going to do it. That's going to get Rodgers here. We can pay him, and we can fix whatever we need to fix just to get him here. Could it happen? It's a possibility. I just don't know if it's the right decision for Rodgers.
Yeah, absolutely. You got any other coaches out there that you really enjoyed the hiring so far this year? Or?
I mean, I would love to say Josh McDaniels. I would, because what I do think is good here is in following the hiring process. What the Raiders have done is they add 2 former Patriots. You know what I mean, from the staff or from the front office, Dave Ziegler, and a lot. I am more excited about Dave Ziegler, actually, than Josh McDaniels right now because I've heard a lot of high praise for Dave Ziegler, basically saying he was very involved in adding talent, especially this past season, and via draft, bringing some of the talent that they had on that roster. So that's what I'm really excited about. The other part I'll say is Josh McDaniels is I'm kind of like in a wait-and-see approach with him because we know about his faults. He backed out of the Colts job. And then in Denver, he really, I mean, honestly, he just never had a quarterback. Tim Tebow, he did the best he could do in short term.
I think it's the best situation for both of them. Again, he has everything in place that he needs.
Exactly. I think he has the weapons and he has the quarterback in place to where I think he's going to excel. So am I super excited about McDaniels? Not yet. But Dave Ziegler, I'm kind of excited to see where he takes this roster. Other than that, I'll say the Giants. Brian Daboll, I think, is an excellent hire. I was actually kind of, wondering if the Raiders were going to bring him in for an interview or something, and it was speculated but never happened. But Daboll, I mean, look at what he did with that offense and how I understand like they got the pieces he needed and everything, and but what he's done with that offense and how very unique that offense is. They attack deep down the field. They stretch the field. They throw underneath. They throw to the running backs. They get everybody involved. The tight end, Dawson Knox, had a career year this year with the Bills. And early on his career, it didn't look like he was going to amount to anything. But here comes Daboll, and he's getting everybody involved. He's creating plays for everybody to become a dominant player. So I think this is a really good hire for the Giants. I also love the GM that they hired in Joe Schoen. I think that what Daboll is going to bring to this team right now is he's going to work. It looks like because of this move here for a head coach for the Giants, it looks like they're going to stick with Daniel Jones for the time being. It looks like they think that Daboll can bring something else out of Daniel Jones to make him more dynamic than kind of like a Josh Allen. You know, I mean, he's not going to be Josh Allen. Don't get me wrong. But maybe utilizing him with his legs and play action and getting him out of the pocket, because that's when you watch Daniel Jones this past season. Anytime he came out of the pocket, it looked like he was more comfortable. He was able to see the field clearly and deliver the ball much better than in the pocket. So watch for Daboll to kind of move him around like he does Allen. The only thing that I worry about with Daniel Jones is obviously, we all can talk about his mistakes. However, I worry about his ability to stay healthy. Because Josh Allen is not a little guy. Josh Allen is kind of big for a quarterback. Daniel Jones is definitely much smaller than Josh Allen. So I wonder if they do utilize him in the running game and all that more often, I wonder how long his body will be able to hold up. But that's my only concern. Other than that, I think that's a really good hire.
Yeah, and I think even I think first of all, day one, it starts with the GM and what he does, and if he does go into investing in that offensive line, and that will then chain reaction and turn into what the offense can do with Brian Daboll and get this offense moving forward. So that would successful in the draft then turns into success onto the field, I think, with the offense.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that's just a few. There's still other coaching vacancies out there that that we'll review when as they happen. I thought for sure, real quick, the Jaguars are going to end up hiring Byron Leftwich.
Right, and then it kind of was open in the air still. How about that?
And they're still having interviews. So, one of which, the most recent one, is Rich Bisaccia, former Raiders interim coach. Now has gone and interviewed for the Jaguars job. So we'll see how that unfolds.
That's right. Well, there you go. We'll keep you posted on that. That's right. And like we said, we got some big announcements moving forward for Radio Row. A bunch of guys that we're going to be interviewing that are big names. So we're excited for that. We appreciate all the support. So the big game's coming in 2 weeks. We're excited to cover that.
Oh, real quick. This just in. Mike Tackett did comment. Didn't for some reason didn't come on the Jumbotron, but. Mike Tackett said Jimmy G to Denver. Deshaun Watson plays in Houston in 2022. What else it says?
Oh, he says statements here.
Pickett to Pittsburgh, Carr to Green Bay, A-Rod to Las Vegas, or Tampa Bay. What the heck? Wait a second, Mike. Wait a second. Hold on. Let me clear my throat. Jimmy G to Denver, I could see. That I would be on board with you. I could also see Jimmy G going to Pittsburgh if they don't decide to possibly draft one. if they do draft one, I could definitely see Cody Pickett going to Pittsburgh because he's from Pittsburgh. He's a hometown boy.
And Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett, my bad. It would all make sense right there. But Deshaun Watson playing in Houston, he's already vouched he does not want to be there. I don't think he's going to play in Houston at all. I, in fact, think that after this whole court case, and that's a weird thing, too. We haven't heard nothing so far still about that being either resolved or ending or anything. So after that gets resolved, then it's up to the NFL. Maybe they suspend him for some games, maybe not. It depends on how that all ends. But I just don't see Watson staying there in Houston. I feel like he's going to be traded to somewhere. We just don't know where. But other than that, Carr to Green Bay, Carr's not going anywhere. There's a reason why McDaniels took the job with the Raiders because they actually already have a quarterback. Maybe that was one of the things that he learned from when he went to Denver last. He's like, I'm going to go to a team that has a quarterback ready.
Right.
Other than that, and then A-Rod to Las Vegas, there's been speculation of that happening, of Carr getting traded and then the Raiders bringing in A-Rod. To me, it doesn't make sense unless the numbers work. I don't think the Raiders want to pay a quarterback $45 million a year, $50 million a year, whatever it's going to take to get a guy like Rodgers there, and take away from any salary cap that they have, and kind of not put it into the team and just put it into A-Rod. So,
I think when they're close right now. What they're doing, though, I think the system is starting to work for them. What they've been trying to do and build. It's getting there. So I think for them just to throw in, which I understand it's Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Hall of Fame quarterback. It's going to make your team better. I get that.
Right.
And jump on there.
Yeah.
But I think they can spread the money out that they have, again, like you guys said, around other bits and pieces and parts and run this offense the way they want without doing that move.
Yeah, and they're not. I mean, listen, I get it. It's Rodgers. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have Rodgers. I would. He's 37 years old, and if whatever team he goes on, if he can stay healthy, that's the big key. If he stays healthy, he could play for a while. He could play till he's 42, 43, maybe 44, like Tom Brady. Maybe that's a big maybe because Tom Brady. I will say this: he had a lot going for him through his whole career. When he was with New England, he hardly ever got touched ever. Because he had one of the best offensive lines. He goes to Tampa. They revamped that offensive line before he gets there, and he has great protection yet again. So that to me is what Tom Brady was truly lucky about, is he never had to play behind a terrible line.
That's the thing. That was good. And then I think also that his meeting his wife, I think that changed everything because that started him onto the healthier kick to where he ended up meeting up with his guy to start TB12. And that started a whole nother different thing because you've seen the transformations in him and the way he takes care of his body too as well. That is definitely attributed to his success as well. So let's take a look quick at the competition right there. It is. Joey's got the win. I will be drinking the week after Super Bowl, so that's coming up too as well. A lot of big things moving forward. Try and enjoy the Pro Bowl if you guys can and see what they do in that. They got to bring back more competitions, things like that, to make it exciting.
Yeah.
Right?
We're gonna get into that probably like next week or something.
Yeah, when we get something to bitch about next week or something about
we'll
the
make
Pro
up a
Bowl
lot of things to bitch about.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.